Most people see Lishui as a poor mountain city in eastern China. Tea terraces, ancient villages. The kind of place young people leave. What they're actually looking at is a city that stopped waiting for permission to matter. A designated periphery that learned to issue the only standard its mountains would ever need. Welcome to China in 5. This is where we trace the architecture behind urban power. Each week, one city, one principle tested in practice. Last week, we looked at Yuxi, a one-product city built on tobacco. When tobacco began to decline, it didn't search for a new identity. It transferred its industrial discipline into agriculture. The product changed. The capability didn't. This week, City 34, Lishui. And here, the question is different. What happens when a place built to preserve realizes preservation itself is the product? 10 things to understand about Lishui. 1. Before it mattered. For centuries, Lishui existed on the edge of relevance. Mountain after mountain. Villages pressed into valleys. Too far from the coast to industrialize. Too rugged to scale. It wasn't poor because it failed. It was poor because it was out of the way. 2. The constraint. 88% mountains. Flat land so scarce factories were never realistic. And the water that ran through those mountains flowed downstream to the wealthy coast. It had to stay clean. Industry wasn't blocked by ideology, it was blocked by terrain. 3. The isolation breaks. 2006, the expressway opens. 2015, high-speed rail arrives. Suddenly, Lishui is no longer remote. And just as access arrives, something else changes. Urban China begins to crave purity. Timing shifts the equation. 4. The economy of leaving. Before the shift, the pattern was simple. Mushrooms, tea, timber, and then departure. Young people left for coastal factories. The economy wasn't growth. It was outflow. 5. The real risk. The danger wasn't collapse. It was dependence. Fiscal transfers that kept things running but never built autonomy. A place preserved but permanently peripheral, beautiful, and irrelevant. 6. The question. Then Lishui asked something radical. What if the thing that limits us is the only thing we can own? What if preservation isn't a constraint but a standard? That shift changed everything. 7. Building the standard. The city of Lishui didn't launch a campaign. It built a system. The Lishui Municipal Bureau to define criteria. Lishui cooperatives enforcing compliance. Private producers operating inside the framework. Not marketing, governance. 8. The asset. Not mushrooms, not tea, not tourism. The asset is certification. The right to define what Lishui grown means. In a market flooded with green labels, definition becomes power. 9. When demand arrived, as infrastructure improved, so did urban wealth. The elites of Hangzhou and Shanghai grew rich enough to pay for verified purity. Lishui was ready. Standards were codified. Verification loops were operational. The mountains had become legible. 10. Why it matters. Lishui is not just a preserved city. It is a test. A laboratory for whether ecological protection can fund itself. If preservation can generate revenue here, then every ecological periphery has a new blueprint. Constraint becomes certification. Certification becomes leverage. What you've seen here is only the visible layer. The deep dive breaks down the verification loop, how preservation becomes enforceable, scalable, and exportable. The companion essay explains how this model now travels across China's ecological frontier. Both are linked below. Next week, we move to Wuhu, a city with no coastline. No early policy favoritism. No obvious advantage. So it built one. It turned a struggling workshop into Cherry, a national electrical vehicle champion born in a provincial backwater. The city acted as founder, financier, and protector. It bore the risk. And then it let that single anchor pull an ecosystem into existence. Lishui marks the completion of Season 1. 34 provinces mapped. From coast to plateau. From desert to preservation zone. The restriction became the advantage. The industry may decline, but capability doesn't have to. 707 cities, one structural map. This is China in 5.